Hi, welcome to the Stream Home Edition. I'm Femi OK. We start a new week of shows looking at the coronavirus and Brazil. And does Brazil's president even care about COVID-19? What a question to ask. You'll find out why I asked it in just a moment. Of course, we care about what you think. I want you to weigh in. Our YouTube chat is now open. Jump in the comment section and we will try and put your points of view to our guests. Let us meet the guests. Hello, Edmund. Tell our audience who you are.
Hi, how are you? I'm Edmund, and I'm the editor of Rio on Watch, which is a bilingual publication focused on Rio favelas and elevating their perspectives.
So good to have you. I'm feeling well. Thank you for asking. Hello, Leticia. Welcome to the stream. Tell our audience who you are.
Hi. I am originally from Rio, but I'm living in southern Brazil now. I have a medical degree, which I have never used. I'm a freelance translator and mother of one.
Here.
Very good.
Yes.
And that voice that you're hearing just coming into the line is Marcelo. We will hear Marcelo in just a moment.
Yes.
He is a journalist. Let us start, though, with the voice of a doctor. We have communicators in our lineup, but I really want you to see and hear from the voice of Dr. Piloto. Dr. Piloto is telling us what Brazil is like right now from a medical position. So listen.
After the first cases, social isolation was recommended by the state governor, but in the last 2 weeks people went back to the streets, and now we are seeing a rise in the number of COVID patients admitted to the hospital, and also an increase in the amount of severe cases. It worries me especially because disease dissemination is now occurring in communities with fewer resources. Another issue here in Brazil is the lack of tests to assure the diagnosis. They are available in private hospitals, but they are expensive. And in the public system, when the tests are available, the results take too long.
Leticia, if you were going to set the scene for how Brazil is doing with COVID-19 and you were being super candid, what would you tell our audience?
Oh, that we're doing very poorly, horribly. We're not prepared. Most cities are not prepared at all. The government is definitely not doing what it was supposed to be. We had time. We have been warned. We had examples from Italy and other countries where things were, they were a couple of steps ahead of us. So we kind of knew what to expect, even though conditions are different, demographically speaking and socioeconomically speaking, but we had an idea what was to come and nothing was done anyway, which is why we're in this horrible condition right now. There are a lot of people dying. Of course, most of the people who are dying are the poor people, which in Brazil means that they're Black. So it is a kind of, there is a kind of necropolitics background to it.
I have to bring in this picture, Edmund. You wanted to show this Instagram picture. It's here on my laptop. And there's a reason why you wanted to share it. So I'm going to show it and then you can do the tell bit. Go ahead, Edmund. What are we looking at?
This is a shot that was taken in Niterói, which is a neighboring city to Rio. It's in Rio State. And I think, this photo is just pretty emblematic of the social inequality that's been present in Rio historically, but now is really coming to the forefront amid this pandemic. So you've got here a jogger who is taking his day off almost as a holiday or is working from home, presumably. And you have someone delivering via bike, delivering groceries, which is a common, often informal position here. Or it's the type of day laborers that you see that really can't afford to take work at home. So to me, this really shows you what the effects are and the disparities in terms of who can be told to actually maintain effective quarantine measures without going hungry or without facing economic difficulty. And that's this kind of inequality that you've seen in Brazil more broadly, but Rio specifically, I think, is becoming a huge problem right now.
Marcelo, welcome to the stream. Just tell everybody who you are, and then I'm going to make you work straight away. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Femi. Hi, everybody. My name is Marcelo Lins. I'm a journalist at Globo News TV, which is the biggest 24-hour news channel here in Brazil. And I cover international news, current affairs, commentator in some programs and stuff. So I'm here. And sorry for the delay. We're having some, everything is sorted out right now.
Not a problem at all. Let me start with this tweet, because we asked our community, we were talking to them online about what is Brazil like right now. This is one perception. People are divided in their perceptions. Those who are more literate see it as a threat that it is, and therefore stay at home, wear masks when they absolutely need to go out and wash everything down with soap. Let me just continue here. Too many believe the virus is either irrelevant or a lie by the press and by left wing. Marcelo, you are the press. Are you lying to Brazil?
Well, I think that when you see, we say that the country is divided is just because maybe the informations that are coming from our authorities are mixed a bit. The president says something, the Ministry of Health says something else different, very different. The president and the economic team have always been apparently more worried with the effects of the crisis on the economy than with anything else. And the health authorities, of course, they are worried. We're already more than 6,000 deaths. We are reaching fast, like almost 100,000 cases in this country. And as my colleague was saying there as well, we're such an unequal country that, of course, this sort of problem hits much harder those who have less. And on the top of that, we have an economic crisis, a health crisis, and a political crisis in the country right now. So it's the sort of a perfect storm that is going on. And if we have a president who is like the forefront denial people, it's very difficult to tackle such a problem. So I think that we are really living some sort of a dystopia, and press is trying very hard to highlight the problems, to highlight the depth of this crisis. But the hardcore basis of the president isn't eager to listen to that. They're saying that we are anti-nationalistic, we don't want the good of the people, and we are not paying attention to the problems of the economy, which is quite weird in this moment in time.
I have seen some
if I
very
may,
disturbing.
I know.
Yeah, Leticia, go ahead, please.
The tweet that you showed, that was the friend my friend who indicated me to participate on the show. And if I may translate his Twitter handle to you, it means little flu that has already killed 6,000 people, because our president said right at the beginning of this thing, he said that, oh, this is just a little flu. That's exactly what he said. It's just a little flu. And then now this little flu has killed thousands of people, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. Quite the opposite, to be honest. We're still expecting the peak of the whole thing, which has been stalled in a lot of places because people initially adhered to the quarantine. They were staying home. Not anymore, and partly because he went to TV and said, "This is nothing. You should go out. You are cowards if you stay home." These are his words. People who
So
stay
is there
home
a battle? Is there a battle, guess, between the medical professionals and the president about what is the reality? Go ahead.
Well, it's also.
Emma, you start first.
I think it's a battle between the president and medical professionals, but almost maybe more broadly between the president and state and city governments. With his rhetoric, every time he's come on TV, on networks, and given a pronouncement, basically saying what Leticia just said, either calling it a small flu or a little, the word he uses, gripezinha, like the sniffles. He basically sends people back out into the streets. So because Brazil has actually has a certain number of data tracking technologies, or actual geo-presential tracking measures, they've actually been able to map people going back out into the streets after his speeches. So even though you have state governors trying to employ quarantine measures and being fairly effective in terms of trying to lock down their cities, every time the president speaks, so it's not even through policy, but it's his rhetoric itself that is conflicting directly with their quarantine measures.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Marcelo, let me share this. Yeah, go ahead, and I'm going to share a story which indicates it perfectly. Go ahead.
Yes, but just to show how broad is like this clash that is going on between science and this one politician and his hardcore base. This country has seen, I think it's one of the few countries in the world that we've seen protests in the street disregarding the science. They say, no, we want to go back to work. And the president has been very eager to jump in this boat. He's saying that, mayors and governors, they don't want us to restart the economy. So that's their fault. Go ask them to do something, because everybody knows the problems that the economy is facing. But the way the president is behaving is something like he's giving up his responsibilities putting it on the shoulders of the governors and of the mayors, said, if anything bad happens, and we know that bad things are happening, it's their fault, not mine, which is quite weird.
Talking about bad things happening, I have seen images coming out of Brazil of mass graves. And I'm not too sure. I mean, it's very easy to show pictures and then say, well, this shows how desperate Brazil situation is. But Leticia, seeing those pictures, these pictures that we're about to show, what should we think of them?
This is incredibly sad. It shows how unprepared we were. It shows how dangerous the president's speeches and the whole narrative he's been building is for the country. And you know what the main thing is? That he went well, he didn't say it actually, but his network on WhatsApp, which is the main messaging app used in Brazil, is right now is probably the most commonly used means of communication in the whole country. And there are these stories running about saying that all these coffins were empty, that this was just a ruse by the press to scare people, to keep them at home, to keep them from working, to keep the economy from jumpstarting. And people are actually forcing authorities to open the coffins because they actually want to see that their loved ones are actually dead in the coffins. And of course, it helps spread the virus. Of course, this causes a lot of pain. So nothing good is coming out of the federal government at all. And the funny thing is that he keeps blaming the governors and mayors and so on. But the phrase he used, he said, I don't want this on my shoulders. This is not my fault. He actually said all the things that we mentioned, and he actually said those things, which is unbelievable. Yeah. And at some point, when the day he said, so what? When people told him, well, there are thousands of people dying every day. And he said, so what? What can I do about it? This is not on me. These deaths, I don't want these deaths on me. Which is ridiculous if you consider that he has defended or paid homage to torturers from the years of dictatorship in the past. So those deaths are okay for you. You keep saying, he keeps saying that the dictatorship should have killed more people, but now that it's your responsibility to take care of these people and offer them decent health care and get prepared, get your country prepared, prepare more beds, train professionals, and now you say they don't want these deaths on you. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
See, Leticia, as you were speaking, Edmund literally did a face palm as you were speaking. Edmund did articulate what was behind that, shaking your head, holding your head, articulate those emotions. Go ahead.
Well, it's because of the nature of coronavirus. Obviously, I mean, we've seen this all over the world, but people can't actually attend funerals, burial grounds, cemeteries, etc. So the fake news surrounding this now, I mean, Leticia used the word necropolitics earlier on, and that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's the control over who lives and who dies, and it's devastating to see because studies have come out more recently declaring that it's likely that the under notification of cases and deaths even in Brazil could be something like 12 times less than what the actual official figures are. So what you're seeing deaths being diagnosed as acute respiratory diseases or as suspected of COVID, but comparatively few actually diagnosed as COVID. So it's still, even though it seems by the official figures that we haven't hit the peak yet, behind all of this, it's very clear that there's a massive crisis going on. People are only now starting to, if they are actually now starting to understand what's happening.
I'm going to show you a couple of images because Leticia and Edmund and Marcella, you've been mentioning these. Just excuse me 1 second, so I can catch up our audience on what you already know. So back here, this is a famous quote from the president. So what? I'm sorry, what do you want me to do? My middle name is Messiah, but I can't work miracles. This was what he was saying on passing as journalists were asking him, what about the death toll, which was about 5,000, and it was making headlines. Look here again, back here on Twitter, Tom Phillips, 5,017 deaths. So what? What a powerful front page from Brazil's m-com today. I want to go to YouTube. YouTube is very busy right now. Thank you, YouTube, for joining in this conversation. 8 Franks wants to know from you guests, are people in the favelas receiving any help? So these are the more informal areas of living around Brazil.
Sure.
Edmund, do you want to take that first? Go ahead.
Yeah, please. So it's frustrating. I think the most important point to make here in response to this question is that the favelas are helping themselves. So these are favela activists and
Yeah.
organizers who have been scrambling, rushing, effectively organizing to get food parcels out, to get kits, anything from soaps, detergents, hand sanitizers, potable water, and supplies to fulfill a rest because they're so accustomed to the absence of the state. So while the government has been sort of flailing arms, I, I think it's really important to highlight the work of favela organizers and favela residents in this. The lack of a coordinated federal, state, and city response is hitting the poorest communities in Brazil the hardest. But since favela residents are used to this, they've been stepping up. That said, the issue right now, I think, the favelas have been actually monitoring suspected deaths, often treating them as confirmed deaths, as confirmed COVID cases, and tracking the spread of coronavirus throughout Rio. Actually launching their own data initiatives, their own awareness raising campaigns to try and fight back because they're just not going to help them. So the state health system, this is a disease that swept through the rich areas of the city in Rio first, right? It started in the wealthy South zone, and it's only recently made its way up to the North and West zones and through the favelas of the South zone. So even though now people, you look at quarantine adhesion up near me. I live on the sort of the crest of one of the larger favelas in the city. You see that now it looks like a normal day, right? People are out and about. The fairs are busy. Shops are open. Whereas it was the southern zone that effectively actually locked down and was able to deal with this early on. But the favelas are in no such condition to do so, despite their best day.
See, I'm listening to you, Edmund, Leticia, Marcelo, talking to me about what a dire situation Brazil is in right now with COVID-19. And then I'm looking at the Brazilian report here. A poll published by weekly magazine Veja shows that President Bolsonaro still leads polls for 2022. That is remarkable. That means that he has support. Let me share with you a supporter's view. This is Luis. Luis is an economist, and this is his take on why people are not respecting Bolsonaro's approach to the coronavirus in Brazil. Let's have a look.
Bolsonaro has been calling for the Swedish-style vertical lockdown for weeks now. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court gave the governors the right to go ahead with the total lockdown. The same governors that allowed carnival, street parties to go on in February, knowing full well COVID-19 was here among us. The mainstream media, just like Trump, just like Brexit, can't accept that he won the elections. They just want to bring him down.
Marcelo, before you comment, I have to share this with you just so that we've got a little yin and yang in terms of one side of the debate and another side of the debate. This is Barbara. This is her description of President Bolsonaro. Ignorant, radical, a thug, mentally unstable. He's the worst thing that ever happened to Brazil and to the rainforest, liability, and a real threat to all. It goes on and on. But I think you get the gist of what she's saying.
Yeah.
But the polls for the president, doing pretty well. Go ahead, Marcelo.
Yes, this is something still amazing, still really, it's really weird, almost absurd for me that his ratings are still that high. But at the same time, because he's been trying to incarnate this character of the one great nationalist leader in the country, the one that is fighting all these mighty powers of the mainstream media, as he loves to call it, as does his friend Donald Trump in the States. But it's amazing because the figures, they simply don't match. We see what's happening in the world. When we see this supporter, who is an economist, talking about the Swedish approach of the crisis that the president was defending, is something that if we see the figures also of Sweden, it doesn't match because it didn't work there. It's not working. It's no way it's going to be working here. When he talks about Carnival, that's a good point because Carnival led thousands and millions of people to the streets in February in the main cities of the country. But at the same time, in February, here in Brazil, beginning of February, I think that nobody had the exact dimension of the crisis that was coming from Asia and reaching Europe. It just started exactly with people that were coming back from their holidays, people that left Brazil for the carnival, that didn't want to be here in the carnival. They went to Europe. They went, wealthy people went to Europe, went to the States skiing or something like that. And then when they came back, they brought with them also the disease to the country. So putting the blame on the governors for the carnival is not right, even knowing that the carnival exactly was not a really good time to have this amount of people on the streets. But I think that we are starting to see also some other figures in other polls that showing that his support is a bit less than it was like two weeks ago, something like that. And there is, as I said, this political crisis. He fired his justice minister, who was the figure that respected by many Brazilians. And now we have this perfect storm going on. I don't know what the outcome will be, but I think that's going to be lots of suffering till we reach that point.
Again, let me dip into YouTube here. Thank you, Marcelo, for that. Toti Garci says, aside from the economy, what is motivating Bolsonaro to have this kind of behavior? Edmund, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So quickly, I wanted to just highlight something that Marcelo touched on. One of the first deaths from coronavirus confirmed in Rio was actually empregada, so a maid who was working in the house of a wealthy Southern Zone owner who had recently returned from Italy and was under treatment for suspected COVID. So, I mean, what Marcelo is saying fits directly into this. I mean, this was wealthy Brazilians coming back from abroad, bringing it with them, and then that being transmitted to the informal workforce, which is largely concentrated in the favelas of the city. So just more emblematic evidence for what he was saying.
Sure. Letitia, I heard you go, huh? When Toti Garci asked, what is motivating the president other than economy? Go ahead.
There are some conspiracy theories to explain it, but what he gains when there is chaos in the street, because if people go hungry because they can't go out, or because they do go out and get sick and then they can't work anymore. Of course, if you're sick, you can't work. If you're dead, you cannot work. And people will start looting and so on. And for him, this is an advantage because this gives him an excuse to hit hard with the police and with the army, which is on his side. Still kind of looks like it. We don't really know what's going on. We know that the armed forces really don't like him because he is a thug and all those things that Barbara said. He actually is all of those things and more. And the army doesn't like him. But he's there and he is counting on their support. So if he does decide to, I don't know, stage a coup or something like that, he will probably be able to make it because with the excuse of chaos in the streets, that gives him the step he needs to actually go ahead with it.
I'm just looking at Sapi here on Twitter. Sapi says the government needs to provide necessary things like food, water, sanitation and hygiene, support families to cover their needs and care for their children. And then on YouTube, Agent of Change says, so what's the solution then? Putting you all on the hotspot, guess. We're almost at the end of the show. Edmund, I'm going to ask you for a thought, Marcelo for a thought, Leticia for a thought, and that thought will last 30 seconds. Edmund, go ahead.
Sure. So we haven't mentioned that maybe the one effective measure taken by the government was a 600 real payment to informal workers that's going to be dispersed over the next several months. So this was a good move. It was reluctant by the economy minister, Paulo Guedes, and by the president himself. But this has the potential to back up income sources so that people can effectively stay at home. However, it's not enough.
That's very helpful.
I think.
All right, not enough, but helpful. Marcelo, we're literally at 1 minute. So I'm going to give Marcelo a little time then. Marcelo, in a thought, go ahead.
Yes, I think that the solution goes via, we can't forget it, like changing the economic policy of this government, because people are thinking ahead and forgetting this moment right now. We need to have the federal government putting their hands in their pockets and giving more money to the people for them to be prepared for this huge economic crisis.
I think that Leticia, I want to squeeze you in here. Lots of reaction from you, but a thought for solutions? Go ahead.
I don't see any other solution other than giving people money because they can't fend for themselves. And in some cities, city governments are actually giving people more money than these 600 now. And this is actually making a difference. There's nothing else that can be done. We need to test people.
And Leticia, we're at the end of the show. This conversation will continue, I'm sure. I'm Femi OK. Thanks for watching the stream today. See you next time. Take care, everybody.